Happy morning, children. I feel extremely delighted to welcome you all for this wonderful online learning. In our morning session, I would like to start with a new lesson number 5, Taxonomy and Systematic Botany. We have studied about the morphological and vegetative characters in our previous lesson, and in this lesson we are going to learn how to identify a plant, how to name a plant, and how to describe a plant. So that is what is called as taxonomy. So in the first half of our lesson, we'll be discussing about what is taxonomy hierarchy, ICBN, its rules and its changeover taking place, and the type studies, taxonomic aids, about herbarium, Kew gardens, and finally we'll come with the types of different types of classifications, that is artificial, natural, phylogenetic, and recent chemo taxes, zero taxonomy, and finally we'll move to the type study. We have got 6 families, of which I have started with the second family in the link, and on our today online live class we'll be discussing about the first family, that is Fabaceae. So first family we will learn in our online class, live class. So I've started with the second family in the link. So this is what we are going to learn: the systematic positions, their general features, general characters, and the external features like habitat, root, stem, leaves, inflorescence, then the floral characters, calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. And finally we'll be learning the economic importance of that particular family, Apocynaceae, and we are going to learn how to draw the floral diagram and how to write the floral formula for the particular Catharanthus roses. So come on children, you will enjoy learning. Carefully follow the link of this morning session, gain knowledge, and this taxonomy you will love to learn things. You will enjoy drawing diagrams. Come on children, let's explore knowledge. This lesson talks much about taxonomy. Taxonomy is a Greek word which means arrangement. So taxonomy is the science dealing with the study of classification, including the basis, principles, rules, and the procedures. So this is what we are going to learn in our today's class. And this taxonomy is also associated with an earlier usage term called systematics. Systematics recognized as a former field which is defined as scientific study of the kinds and diversity of the plants. Here we see the differentiation table between taxonomy and systematics. Taxonomy is a discipline of classifying organisms. It is a broad field of biology that studies with diversity of species, and taxonomy governs naming, describing, identifying, and specimen preservation, whereas systematics governs the evolutionary or phylogenetic relationship, and taxonomy is classification plus nomenclature, whereas systematics is taxonomy with the phylogeny, that is classification, naming, and the evolutionary trend from which organism it is derived, so which we call it as the systematics. You learn this formula thoroughly. The taxonomy needs to be arranged in an order which we call it as hierarchy, and this is introduced by Carolus Linnaeus with various level in the descending order starting from the kingdom up to the species. So let's start with the species. Species is the lowest level. It is the first step on the classification, and they show high level of similarities among the organisms. So they are called species. The next level would be genus. It consists of multiple species. Many species together makes up a genus. The next third level would be family. Family comprises of number of genus which share some similarities among them. And the fourth hierarchy would be the orders, includes group of families. Then the topmost would be class, consisting of groups of orders. Then you have your kingdom and the phylum. So phylum starts with the first level and ends with the species. These are various level of hierarchies. There are two types of species based upon the process of evolution and the product of evolution. The process of evolution results in biological species, and the product of evolution results in morphological species and phylogenetic species. As a whole, species is divided into biological species, morphological species, and phylogenetic. Let's start with the morphological. When the individuals are similar to one another in one or more features and differ from each other's group, they are called morphological species. So they are similar in one or two groups and differing in only few groups, then it would be morphological. The second variety would be biological species. They are groups of population that interbreed and are reproductively isolated from other such groups. They are called biological species or isolation species. And the last one is phylogenetic. This species, an evolutionary species in a single lineage of ancestral dependent population, which has its own evolutionary tendency and historical fate. So these are the various types of species in which the organisms are grouped. Every organisms need to be named. That is what is taxonomy. So naming is called nomenclature. Assigning name for a plant is known as a nomenclature. This nomenclature need to follow certain rules. It cannot be done on its own, and these rules are regulated by an institute called the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, which is called ICBN. We shall learn about the rules of it. The very first rule would be it is zoological or bacteriological nomenclature. Application of name of taxonomy group is determined by means of nomenclatural types, and it must be published priority of publications, and each taxon group with a peculiar circumscription, position and rank need to be mentioned. And the fifth one is scientific names of taxonomy groups are treated as Latin regardless of their derivatives. And the last one is the rules of nomenclature are retroactive unless expressively limited. So these are the rules that is given by the ICBN, which is renewed every term by the ICBN Council very frequently. The next topic would be vernacular name. Vernacular name is the common name that is given for the particular place. For example, Albizia amora belonging to Mimosea is called Usilial. Okay, Usilai in South Tamil Nadu and Turinji in North Tamil Nadu. The same plant which is called by two names but in two different places. So we call this as vernacular name, or the common name refer to more than one plant, or many plant may have same common name. The next name would be scientific name. Each and every taxon as per the ICN can have one correct scientific name. Scientific name is always a binomial and it is universally applied. For example, Oryza sativa is the scientific name of the paddy. The third type is polynomial name. It is a descriptive phrase of a plant which has got many names. You can see the ranunculus, calibus, rectoflex, pedunculus, fasciculate. So these are the characters which is given out in the form of a name. So a plant has got many names called the polynomial. Let's Let's take a clean look about binomial nomenclature, which was introduced by Caspar Boyan and implemented by Carolus Linnaeus. There are two different things, introduction and implement. Make note of it. Scientific naming of the plant by two words. The first word is called genus name and the second word is called species name. Magnifera indica. Magnifera is genus and indica is the species name. Author citation makes an important thing in the naming of a plant. That is signing a plant by the name of the person who first describes or identifies it is called the author. So if a plant is identified or described by a single person, it is called single author, and if it is done by two persons associated with the valid publication of the name, their name should be noted with the help of a Latin word et or and you should write both the scientist name who has found out the plant. So this is called the author citation. While naming a plant, all these things has to be taken into consideration. Now we are going to identify the plant. To identify a plant, you should have certain tools. We call it as aids or tools. For example, the books like some of the taxonomical aids are keys, flora, revision, monographs, catalogs, herbarium, botanical garden. See, these places you can find the plant either in the form of written format or in the preserved format or in the real living object. So by going into them, we can identify and make a study about the plants, which we call it as the taxonomical aid. We shall look into one of it called the gardens. Garden contains special plants collections such as cactus, succulent, greenhouse, shade house, tropical, alpine, exotic plants. Worldwide there are about 1800 botanical gardens and orbiteras. We shall see the famous garden is Kew Garden in London, and this Kew Garden is also known as an herbarium place where the preserved plants are also kept for studies. Both the living plants and the preserved plants can be viewed at the Kew Garden of London. Plant collection in Kew Garden includes aquatic garden, arboretum with 14,000 trees, Bonosa collections, that is small trees, cacti collections and carnivorous plant collections. So you can find them. That is a Royal Botanical Garden and it is in Kew, London. The next one is about herbarium. What is herbarium? Herbarium is a place. Herbarium, it's a storehouse where the preserved plants are stored. The second herbarium means storing of the plant. Preserving a plant in a sheet is called the herbarium sheet. We shall see both the things. The first one is a place, a museum like, a library like, where you can find many numbers of preserved plants. You can take note of it and make research of those plants and make a systematic study about it. The second one is the herbarium sheet, the sheet in which the plants are preserved. Let's look into the thing how this herbarium is prepared and it is preserved. The first thing is plant collection. You need to go collect a plant. Then documentation of the plant site data. You have to make a note of when you collected the plant, from where you collected the plant, and what is the place from where you got it. All those details you need to document and put a tag over it mentioning the number of the plant. The next is preparation of plant specimen. You have to clean the plant by dusting all the filthies out of it and make it ready for mounting. Fourth is mounting the herbarium specimen. See, this has to be done clearly with the flower and all the details neatly present, and you have to paste it in a sheet, herbarium sheet. Herbarium sheet will be of a particular size, 49 into 21. So that is the specific standard size of an herbarium sheet. Once it is done, you have to label it. You have to give the binomial name if you know it, or else the details, various details as from where you found it, which place, near which hills, and what is the height of it, what is the color of the flower. All details you have to label over there and collected by whom. And once the plant is mounted, pasted on an herbarium sheet, it has to be applied with the insecticides and other pesticides to free from the insects and pests, or else they will come and cause fungal infection in the plant. So it has to be dusted or sprayed with the disinfectants to keep it free. So this is how an herbarium is prepared. Uses of this herbarium: it is a resource for the study, and it plays a voucher specimen, arrangement of voucher specimen, and it is a reference for comparing, and it plays a role in studies like floristic diversities, environmental assessment, and mechanism and survey of unexplored plants. And they provide opportunity for documenting related to the field of ecology and conservation of biology. So these are the various uses of an herbarium. Of taxonomy, naming and identifying is over. Now we are going to go learn the classification. Scientific basis for cataloging and retrieving information about the tremendous diversity of the flora is called as classification. It is arrangement of organisms into groups on the basis of similarities and dissimilarities and relationships. The purpose is to provide systematic arrangement and relationship between the organisms. Basically, there are three types of classification. Let's look into the first one, called the artificial system of classification. This was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. He is known as the father of taxonomy. He is a Swedish botanist. He has written in his book Species Plantarium about this classification. He has described more than 7,500 species and arranged in 21 classes based upon the number of stamens. He has taken only one character, that is the length, the union, and the size of the stamen as his criteria for classification. So this system is also known as sexual system of classification. So this system was not that much accepted because they have taken only one character into consideration. So comes the next system of classification, called the natural system of classification. This natural system of classification was forwarded by two persons called Bentham and Hooker. So these two persons, they belong to British and they wrote in the book called Genera Plantarium, describing about 202 families and 7,569 genera. And these plants have been classified into the following tabular column, which you can learn now. The plant kingdom, seeded plant, is divided into basically two classes, class Dicotyledon and class Monocotyledon, and the second class is Gymnosperm. Dicotyledon and Monocotyledon belong to Angiosperm, and the second class is Gymnosperm. The class Dicotyledon is further divided into three subclasses: Polypetalae, Gamopetalae, Monoclamidae. Polypetalae is further divided to three series: Thalamiflorae, Disciflorae, Calciflorae, based upon the shape of the thalamus. And subclass Gamopetalae is divided into three series, that is Inferae, Heteromerae, Bicarpellate, based upon the position of the ovary, inferior ovary and a half inferior ovary. So this is how the classification was made, taking into consideration of the calyx, the corolla, androecium and the gynoecium. So all the floral characters are taken into consideration for the classification. So this classification is still in use in most of the Commonwealth countries, and this is called the natural system of classification. The third system of classification is called the phylogenetic system of classification. This is in regard to the evolution of an organism. The publication of The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin has paved way for this phylogenetic. Later on, Adolf Engler and Carl A. Prontel, one is from German, both are from Germany, and they have classified plants based upon the evolution, their history of origin, and they have written their classification in the book called De Naturlichen Pflanzen Familien, classifying 23 volumes of plants into different groups. So these are the basic classification of plants. We are now going to enter into another important topic of taxonomy is the botanical description of various plants. In your syllabus, we'll be discussing about 6 families. The first one is Fabaceae, second one is Apocynaceae, third is Solanaceae, and fourth is Euphorbiaceae. So these 4 families, they belong to the Dicotyledon group, and fifth family Musaceae and sixth family Liliaceae, they both belong to the monocot group. So altogether we'll be learning 6 families in your 11th standard syllabus. In the Fabaceae, the 2 family, the type plant description will be Clitoria ternata and Pisum sativum. Sangupu, Clitoria ternata na sangupu, Pisum sativum na pattani chedi. Okay va? Then you have got in Apocynaceae, Cantharanthus rosaceae, Nithya Kalyani. Cheriya? And Calotrophes giganteum is which you will make it for the Chadurthi and all. Okay. The next Solanaceae is Datura metal. Datura metal na Omatampu. Solanum americana is our Manatakali. Okay. Then coming to Euphorbiaceae, Resinus communis, Amanak chedi. And Musaceae, Musa paradisica, banana. Liliaceae, type study is Allium cepa, which is our onion. So we'll enter into the description of these plants. To begin with, let me go with Apocynaceae. Let's start our family study with the systematic position of Apocynaceae. Let's move with the Bentham and Hooker system of classification. Kingdom Plantae, class Dicotyledonae, subclass Gamopetalae, series Bicarpellate, order Genitinials, and family Apocynaceae. And APG classification, Kingdom Plantae, clade. We don't call it as class, but we call it as clade. Angiospermae, clade Eudicots, clade Astraeates, order Genitales, and family Apocynaceae. Let's look into the distinguishing characters. Plants with milky sap and leaves or opposite or old. They don't have stipules, so it is exstipulate. Flowers are pentamerous, that is they have 5 sepals and 5 petals. Stamen epipetalous, very important character, that is stamen is attached to the petals. Connate with corona. Fruit a follicle, a dried dehiscent fruit. Stigma is thick and massive, often connate to stamen to form gynostegium. This is a very important thing because the stigma does not stand alone, it sticks with the ovary. Seeds often with the coma, that is hair, and presence of nectiferous disc, they have nectarous present on it. With this introduction, let's move into the detailed study of the plant Cathananthus rosaceae. This is the picture of the plant. This plant is very important, commercially, medicinally valued, because it has got an anti-cancerous drug in it. So when we take this plant, it is used to cure cancer in cancer patients. So this plant is very much economically valued. Let's look into its characters. Habit: it is an erect, ever blooming ornamental plant. You can find this as a decorative plant in front of the lawns. It is a taproot system because it's a dicot plant. The stem is aerial above the soil. It is erect, standing straight, and you can find in the picture it is cylindrical, and it has got leaves. The leaves are usually simple, that is, only one stalk has got one leaf, and they are present in opposite direction. You can find two leaves are in the direction right, left. The other two you can find they are in north south. So if two is in east west, the next two is perpendicular to the other one. We call it as opposite decussate. And the leaf do not have stipules, and they have petiole. Petiole stalk is there. The leaf is ovate, and it is reticulate venation. Inflorescence, if you take, it is cymose, older flower at the top and younger flower towards the base. Now let's move into the character of the flower. E-bractate, they don't have bract, you can find in the picture. E-bracteolate, they don't have bracteoles also. And the flower is complete. You can find calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, everything there. It is a bisexual, heteroclamidous, actinomorphic, hypogynous, pentamerous, having 5 things, and rosy purple, pink or white petals. Calyx, you can see in the next picture, it is green in color. Sepals 5, slightly synsepalous, slightly they are fused at the base. It is arranged in valvate aestivation. Now let's look into the corolla. Corolla, petals 5. It is also united. You can see that stem like thing beneath, and the top region alone is free. So it is sympatalous. Throat of corolla tube airy, forming a corona twist at hypocratiform. So this is about the calyx and corolla. Let's move to the androecium part of this flower. Stamen is 5. You can find there 5 stamens. They are sticked to the stigma, so it is called epipetalous, and it is on the corona tube. It has got filament, and anthers are present. It is diathekous. It is inside the flower. You cannot find it outside. It is inside, so it is introse. The next is gynoecium. Gynoecium is present very well inside the flower. It has got 2 carpels. You can see in the gynoecium picture 2 bubble like thing. The carpels are united. So upper carpus, superior ovary, and simple style. Stigma is hourglass shaped. You can see the stand glass now which keeps running on, telling out the time. So it is hourglass shape. Fruit, it is an elongated follicles. You can see the fruit, a pair of elongated follicles with the seeds inside them. And this is the ovary. The ovary is apocarpus ovary with nectar scales present over here. These are the technical botanical description of the plant Catharanthus rosaceae. Let's see some of the important plant belonging to this family. Thiveta, Plumera, Rowulfia, and Taberomanata. These are the plants. You can see these flowers growing on the streets and gardens. So these are the famous plants belonging to the family Apocynaceae. And it has got a few medical economically values in this family, which you can refer with the table in your book, page number 105 and 106, I think. So you can refer those pages and learn the economic important. Let's now learn how to draw the floral diagram. Okay, the floral diagram, first it consists of 4 different circles. The first circle we are going to draw the calyx. So as we have read in Catharanthus, calyx is 5. So we are going to draw 5 calyx, green in color, and it is united syncephalous, and it is in valvate aestivation. So we are going to draw now 5 with odd sepal in the posterior position. I am going to mark 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So each is going to be a syncephalous. So I am going to join all the sepals. And it's united, so I am putting a loop to join all the sepals. So I have drawn the first layer, the calyx. The calyx is done. So 5 sepals is done. The next one I am going to draw the corolla. Corolla is again, it is 5. It is twisted. So I am going to draw twisted petals. 5 petals which are pink in color. So a twisted means one end is inside and the other end will be outside. So I have drawn the petals also. Now these are synpetalous. ஒரு பெட்டல் ஒன்னொன்னோட ஜாயிண்ட் ஆகி இருக்கும். இப்போ நான் தனித்தனியாக வரைஞ்சிருக்கேன். இப்போ நான் ஜாயின் பண்ண போகிறேன். ஒரு ஆமை இன்னொரு ஆமோட நான் இப்படி ஜாயிண்ட் பண்ணுறேன். தெரியுதா எப்படி ஜாயின் பண்ணுறேன்னு? இப்படி ஜாயின் பண்ணுறேன். ஸோ பெட்டல்ஸ் ஐ ஹவ் ஜாயிண்ட். சரியா? இப்போ பெட்டல்ஸும் செப்பல்ஸும் வரைஞ்சாச்சு. அடுத்தது யார்? ஆன்தர். ஆன்தர் எத்தனை இருக்குன்னு படித்தோம்? ஸ்டேமன். 5 ஸ்டேமன்ஸ். 5 ஸ்டேமனும் எப்பிபெட்டலஸ், பெட்டல்ஸோட ஒட்டின்னு இருந்தது. ஸோ பெட்டல்ஸோட ஒட்டிகிட்டு இருக்கிறதுக்குன்னு அதோட ஃபிலமெண்ட். இது வந்து ஃபிலமெண்ட். ஃபிலமெண்ட்டுக்கு மேலே ஆன்தர் எப்படி இருந்ததுன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க? இட் இஸ் டைதீக்கஸ். 2. சரியா? 2 பல். ரேபிட்டுக்கு 2 பல் இருக்கும்ல, அந்த மாதிரி வரைகிறேன். ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் தி ஆன்தர். வரைஞ்சாச்சா? ஸோ ஆன்தர் ரொம்ப சிம்பிள். நீங்கள் பார்க்கும்போது பயந்துடக்கூடாது. இட்ஸ் அ வெரி வெரி சிம்பிள் அண்ட் அ பியூட்டிஃபுல் டயக்ராம் விச் யூ வில் ரியலி லவ் டு ட்ரா. நெக்ஸ்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஓவரி பைகார்பல் 2. சரியா? இப்போ இதில் 2ல் ஐ எம் கோயிங் டு ட்ரா 2 ரூம்ஸ். 1 and 2. ஓவரி எப்படி இருக்கு? சரியா? இதுதான் உங்களுடைய ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் ஆஃப் யோர் ஃப்ளோரல் டயக்ராம். இதில் பிராக்ட் கிடையாது, பிராக்டியோல்ஸ் கிடையாது. ஸோ நீங்கள் அதெல்லாம் ஒன்லி த ஆக்டினோமார்பிக்கு மேலே ஒரு சிம்பிள். சரியா? திஸ் இஸ் யோர் ஃப்ளோரல் டயக்ராம். அப்போசைனேசிய ஃப்ளோரல் டயக்ராம். Now let's go to the floral formula. சரியா? floral formula 4 எழுதணும். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் என்னது? பிராக்ட் இருந்ததா? இல்லை. ஸோ we call it as E-bract. அடுத்தது பிராக்டியோல் இருந்ததா? இல்லை. ஸோ we call it as E-bracteolate. அடுத்தது flower can be equally divided. ஸோ actinomorphic. அடுத்தது என்னது? கைனீஷியம். ஆண்ட்ரீஷியமும் இருக்குது, கைனீஷியமும் ஒரே பூவில் இருக்குது. அப்போ என்னது? பைசெக்ஷுவல். அடுத்தது கேலக்ஸ் இருக்கா? எத்தனை இருந்தது? 5. தனியாக இருந்ததா சேர்ந்து இருந்ததா? சேர்ந்து, சின்செப்பலஸ். அடுத்தது கொரோலா இருக்கா? இருக்குது. கொரோலாக்கு என்னது? சி. எத்தனை இருந்தது? 5. தனியாக இருந்ததா சேர்ந்து இருந்ததா? சேர்ந்து, சின்பெட்டலஸ். அடுத்தது ஆண்ட்ரீஷியம். ஆண்ட்ரீஷியம் எத்தனை இருந்தது? 5 ஸ்டேமன்ஸ். 5 ஸ்டேமன்ஸ் எப்படி இருக்குது? இங்கே பாருங்கள். 5 ஸ்டேமன். 5 ஸ்டேமன் எப்படி இருக்குது? பெட்டல்ஸோட ஜாயிண்ட் ஆகிருக்கு. அப்போ என்னது? இது கூட இதை ஜாயிண்ட் பண்ணுறோம். சரியா? கேலக்ஸ் கூட ஆண்ட்ரீஷியத்தை ஜாயின் பண்ணுறோம், மேலே ஒரு ஆர்க் போட்டு. நெக்ஸ்ட்டு கைனீஷியம். எத்தனை கார்பிள்ஸ்? 2 கார்பிள். யுனைட்டடாக செப்பரேட்டடாக செப்பரேட்டாக இருக்குது. அடுத்தது இவங்க என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, சுப்பீரியர் ஓவரி. ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் தி ஃப்ளோரல் ஃபார்முலா. இதை வச்சு நம்ம கேரக்டர் படிச்சிடலாம். என்ன சொல்லுங்கள், ஈப்ராக்டேட், ஈப்ராக்டியோலேட், actinomorphic, bisexual, calyx with 5 sepals, syncephalous, corolla with 5 petals, synpetalous, androecium with 5 stamen, epipetalous, gynoecium, bicarpellate, superior ovary. So this is how you will have to write the floral formula. Scatharanthus rosaceae.